it was a tough weekend. And even for those of you that didn't wrestle, I hope that you eventually will get to those type of tournaments next year, those travel tournaments. They are really designed to help you see what's out there and help expand yourself. There's novice brackets. So it's not like that you're going to go out there and if you're a novice wrestler, it's not like you're going to go out there and not have any success. The main things that I wanted to talk about today are your mindset, because a lot of people are having trouble right now with anxiety and fear and maybe having self-confidence problems or feeling like they're not doing enough or measuring themselves up against success, right? I know we recognized the place finishers because that signifies hard work, but that doesn't mean your success is always the same as theirs. Success for some of you is just going to that tournament and competing, period. Okay? So I know I've talked to a lot of the coaches and dads, and I know that some of you are struggling right now mentally with that feeling of, I'm not doing good enough right now. I'm not doing enough. I have these people around me that are doing more, and you're measuring your worth against other people. And it's just, you need to stop doing that, okay? You need to get out of your head. When you get nervous before a match, you need to understand that there are different types of stress. Your body's getting amped up for battle. It's getting amped up. You got to stop being afraid of that. You got to embrace that. Does that make sense? Would you expect that before you go and jump out of an airplane that your heart's not going to be beating 1,000 miles an hour? No. Your body's ramping up for battle. So that freaks some of you out, and you get scared of it. And then it's a never-ending loop of, I'm going to wrestle, I get scared, I get nervous, and then I can't really compete as well as I should. So we have to understand that that's okay. It's okay to get nervous, okay? There's a lot that happens behind the scenes in wrestling. It takes a very, very long time. This morning I was watching a History Channel show about glaciers, and I wanted to bring it up to you guys because glaciers, they carved out the Great Lakes, and it took thousands and thousands and thousands of years for that to happen. Beautiful things take a long time to create. And with wrestling, it's an art. It's a beautiful thing when somebody goes out there and wrestles at a high level. It takes a lot of time, okay? So just remember that. Have perspective. Jordan Burroughs wasn't recruited out of high school. Nobody really wanted him. And he's one of the best wrestlers of all time, okay? It takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of effort, and mentally, you just have to be tough and you have to get through it, okay? I know for sure some of you this weekend left with your tail tucked between your legs. I know it. And I also know that some of you don't understand the idea of no BCD. No blaming, no complaining, and no defending yourself when coach is trying to help you. Okay? We do not blame others, period, when we don't do what we want to do, when we don't have success. We don't blame others. It happened. Look at the Chiefs. Look at the Chiefs. Everybody was wanting to blame everything else for how good they were doing, except the Eagles. They didn't. I didn't hear much out there about the Eagles blaming anybody. They went to work. They focused on what they could, and they beat the tar out of us. So even the best in the world champions, get beat. And it's heartbreaking. And I understand that. I get that it's heartbreaking. I get that you lose and you don't like it and you want to quit. But I'm going to tell you this. If you ever feel like quitting, I want you to come and talk to me because I want to know why. Because if you're quitting because it's hard and you're not having success, then I want you to tell me your plan for what you're going to put your time and energy into. Because if you're going to go put your time and energy into something else to get better at something else, if you're going to go make sure that you are challenging yourself and making yourself a better person because you're passionate and love something else, then I'm okay with that. But if it's just because it's hard, then I'm not okay with that, because that means that anytime something gets hard in your life, you're just going to quit. And that's not the kind of the wrestlers that we're or people that we're trying to bring up in this club. You guys understand what I'm saying? Do not quit wrestling just because it's hard. Physically, mentally, yeah, I know. I get it. But everything else you're going to want to do is going to be hard. Now, it might not be as hard as wrestling, but if you can wrestle, you can do anything. I promise you. If you can wrestle, you can do anything. And that's what we believe. That's what the coaches believe. That's what I believe. And that's why we give all the time and energy and effort that we do. All right? Perspective. I want you to think about this. You know, I read a lot. I try and take time to read every day. But you guys, raise your hand if you've heard of JFK, John F. Kennedy Jr. Raise your hand. If you haven't, he was one of America's great presidents. He was the youngest president at the time to ever become president, and in the early 1960s. And in the very early days of his presidency, he was faced with literal nuclear war, a threat of nuclear war. It's called the Cuban Missile Crisis, where foreign nations put missiles on Cuba and pointed them at us. And for 13 days, that dude was tasked with making a decision and to have a clarity of mind and to not panic and be anxious and freak out, to make the right decisions to literally save the world. Think about that. Think about being that dude. And all you have to do is deal with being a little bit nervous before a wrestling match. Okay? Put it in perspective. When you think about going out there and competing, how nervous it makes you, when you think about going out and losing, guys, you should never, ever be embarrassed or ashamed to lose. Ever. We're never embarrassed or ashamed of you when you lose. You know when we're embarrassed or ashamed? When you're below the line. When you BCD. When you throw a fit and act like not just a baby. I don't care like crying, but like throwing a fit. Slamming headgear, not shaking hands. That's not controlling emotion at a different level. Okay? Being upset after a match is normal. That is absolutely normal. And if you're not, and some of you aren't upset enough, then we got to figure that out. Some of you don't care. And that I don't like at all. Some of you, if you don't care one way or another whether you win or lose, or that you do your best, then there's a problem. And we need to figure it out. I'm going back to things we can control. I know for sure that most of you are not doing your extracurricular. That means outside of practice, push-ups and pull-ups every day. I know that. You've told me. And that's on you. That's on you. You can't complain or get upset one bit if you're not trying to make yourself stronger. I've told you no less than 100 times this season alone that pull-ups are the number one thing that you can possibly do for yourself to get stronger and be a better wrestler, especially at this age. And some of you still don't have pull-up bars in your house, okay? You need to do that. And not only do you need to do them, but you need to write it down, put goals on the wall, make sure you see it, make sure you're actually doing it. Because a lot of our problems come from the other guys being stronger than us, period. It just does. And the only way to fix that, doesn't matter how much we talk or wrestle or talk philosophy or drill, is if you get stronger. So those are things that we can control, and we have to do a better job at it. The best wrestlers in the world, they have their brain computes. It's a computer. Your brain's a computer. You know that, right? When you look at wrestling, it's a math equation. That's how I started to look at it. It's if A, then B. If B, then C. If C, then D. It's chain wrestling. And the wrestlers that recognize that quicker than the other person are better. So what are you doing to enhance your download speed and your upload speed? What are you doing? Are you watching? Raise your hand if you've watched a college duel this year. Okay? Are you watching higher level wrestling? Are you putting it in your brain and understanding it? I'm telling you, it makes a big, big difference. There's kids out there on the mat that do stuff like this weekend. It's like, wow, that kid's mind understands wrestling different than other people. You can just tell, okay? And if you're not taking time to do that, then you're not being a student of the game. We got to be students of the game better. And stop just going home and being below the line, basically on autopilot, getting on your iPad and playing games and watching silly things on YouTube. Put good stuff in your brain, and wrestling is one of the things you can do. All right, watch wrestling. We got to be hammers on top. So that's something I want us to start thinking about. Hammers on top. That's what we are when we get on top. We're on bottom. We're anvils. An anvil. You know what an anvil is? You see them in cartoons. They're the big metal brick-looking type things. Well, what they're used for back in the day was blacksmiths. They hammered swords. When you put a sword, you put it in the fire, and you take it out, and you put it on an anvil, and you take a hammer, and you sharpen it, right? That's an anvil. It's made to bear weight and be strong. We got to be like that on bottom. On bottom right now, we're not. So on top, we're hammers. On bottom, we're anvils. And on our feet, we got to be like Tasmanian devils. You guys ever seen Tasmanian Devil cartoon? I did. I grew up with him. He's nonstop motion, crazy, can't keep up with them. If you tried, you would pass out. Like, we have to have that mindset. I was very proud of a lot of you this weekend, but some of us, our minds are not where they need to be, okay? And in the mindset. And it starts with having conversations about it and setting the expectation, okay? When we lose, who cares? Who cares? Trust me, I know the feeling of loss. I get it. I wanted nothing more than to win the state championship my senior year. And I lost. I lost in the finals. And I was heartbroken. I cried and cried and cried and bawled. And I went into the bathroom and just sobbed. But that's what happens when you want something so bad and you work so hard to do it and you don't get it. But guess what? The journey that takes you to that point, even if you almost get it and you miss it, like the Chiefs, opportunity to win 3 Super Bowls in a row, never been done, may never ever be done, and it was there and they lost it. That process makes you who you are. It makes you better. And that's what we have to embrace, is that process. You guys understand that? You can't just be focused on winning and losing. It's the process. And right now, I feel like we're doing pretty good as a club, but I still feel like some of you don't understand why you're here, okay? And if you're struggling right now, you need to start thinking about why is it that I do this? And I want you to know why, okay? I want you to go watch some film. I want you to watch video and study about anxiety and the fight or flight response and sports psychology. Those are all things high-level athletes study and they're good at. And I know you're really young, but that's how we're going to separate ourselves from our competition. We're going to be mental warriors. You guys understand? Okay. I want you to think about what it takes to be good. And some of it, you guys are going to hear me say this over and over, and the coaches have until I'm blue in the face, and you might be sick of it. But I asked Connor Coling for a commitment. Where are you, Connor? I know I asked him for a commitment to at least give me one day in the off season because we can help him be better. He doesn't. You can play other sports. I don't care if it's Saturday or Sunday. I'll come up here on my own time outside of regular practice. But if you want to be better, you got to put in some time in the off season. You just have to. You have to. That will help you catch up to these people that are beating you right now. If you're not doing that, that's okay. I'm not going to be mad at you or devalue you, but you can't be mad at yourself for going out there and not performing when we go to those tough tournaments because those people are doing it. So you have no right to be dissatisfied or upset with yourself or say, I'm going to quit because you're not doing all the things that you could be. So I'm going to continue to ask that of you. Okay, if you're going to be a wrestler on this team, you give me some time in the off season. We have 4 days a week. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking for 1, maybe 2 a month. I got to have you in here, okay? We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out around your other sports schedule. I'm not saying you just need to be a wrestler, but we got to have that time. And I promise you, it'll make huge difference. Penn State, right? They're outliers. They have had 5 shutouts this season. That's crazy. It's as many as they've had in the previous 3 seasons. Those guys are the definition of greatness, okay? And sometimes when you're that good, it seems like it was magical, but it's not. Every single one of those wrestlers have put in so much energy and time and effort into being that great, and then they have a great leader and a great program, okay? Now, sometimes you got freaks of nature. I get that. You're going to work as hard as you possibly can, and this is your ceiling period, and there's just going to be people above you. I get that. But again, if you're not trying to be the very best version of yourself, then there's no point in doing this. But every one of you, that's what I'm going to ask of you. The next couple of weeks, we zone in, get in the flow, get in the mental flow, and be the very best we can for a couple weeks leading into districts. Okay? That's what I was reading on today, was clearing your mind. Clearing your mind. I'm going to end with this. It's a quote from the chapter I was reading today. Whatever you face, whatever you're doing, will require first and foremost that you don't defeat yourself. That you don't make it harder by overthinking, by needless doubts, or by second guessing. There's something called Zen, and we have to clear our minds because our minds are noisy. And the more we think, the more we get anxious, the more we get in our own heads, the worse we do in wrestling. Trust what you've done in here. And if you haven't done what you needed to in here, well, that's another thing. But if you put in the work, put in the time, you're in shape, you've worked hard, you've listened, you're coachable, you're above the line, everything will take care of itself. And if you go out there on the mat and you don't win that match, that person was just better than you that day. And that's okay. We're going to help you. It's a long process. We want to be the tortoise, not the hare. We're not going to take shortcuts. You guys understand that? It's a marathon. It's not a race. There's some kids right now, I get it. They're 8U and they're world champions. I don't care. I promise you, some of them, they don't have a good family life. Their parents put too much pressure on them. They're going to break them. They're going to make them hate the sport. That's where we fail as coaches. Not because you don't end up in a state championship plaque. That's not where we fail. We fail if we break you because we don't do it the right way. So we're all committed to doing it the right way. You guys understand? All right. If you have problems with your mindset, we need to talk about it, and you and I need to talk to you, and any of these coaches need to talk. We need to talk about how you feel, why you feel that way. Last thing I'm going to say, I promise. I've heard recently that some of us are putting our other teammates down. You want to disappoint me? You want to run for 10 years? Put your teammates down. We are a team. We're a family. We build each other up, period. I don't care if you're winning and they're losing. You don't rub it in their face. You don't bring it up to them. You don't make them feel like they're less than you. That's a load of crap. Do not do that, okay? You build each other up. You make sure that they get the support that they need, because everybody is different, and you don't know what somebody else's life is like until you've walked a mile in their shoes. So I better not see or hear of any of that, or I'll be talking with you and your parents. We'll be having a separate meeting, and I hope that I never have to do that. But I was very disappointed in hearing some of that. I'm not going to call out names, but if it happens again, I will. Okay? Very proud of you again this weekend. For those of you that didn't go, there's a chance to wrestle this weekend. But then we have a team camp the following weekend, and then we have districts. Okay? So let's be the best we can for 2 weeks, and let's get ready. You guys down with that? Yes. All right. Thank you for your attention. I'm extremely impressed at your ability to sit there and listen to what I was saying for close to 15, 20 minutes. I appreciate that. All right, everybody on the wall. Smallest to biggest.